Two troublesome friends are hired to retrieve a mysterious substance that plucks them out of time. As they navigate through confusing timelines, they discover that their connection with each other is stranger than they imagined. Johnny gloats about his new bike to Denise, who reminds him that it's stolen. Dismissing this, he asks her for some recreational substances, but she reveals that she's tapped out. With his withdrawal gnawing, Johnny suggests going to Kane for more, despite his friend warning him that the man scalped someone for upsetting him. The two meet Kane at a laundry shop, but he demands Johnny to settle his debt first. Johnny offers to load his new bike instead, but Kane refuses. Instead, the dealer offers them a job to extend their debt's deadline. Denise hesitates, but Kane looms over her, making her storm off. Later, the friends discuss the job, though Denise remains doubtful since they could be robbing a lunatic. Kane soon arrives and tells them to procure a bag from a house. The woman probes what's inside the package, but he refuses to explain, so she walks away. Kane grabs her and reminds her of their debt. Despite this, the woman refuses, so the dealer finally admits that their target is unhinged. But he shouldn't be a problem since the job is a simple in-and-out procurement. Denise reluctantly accepts, so the man adds that they can only get in and out from the bathroom window as the house is boarded up. He writes the address and the woman grabs it before marching out. Before he leaves, Kane advises Johnny not to partake of the crystals he'll find, explaining that the last person who consumed it disappeared and was later found in a textbook picture from the Gold Rush era. That afternoon, the two head to the address, all while Johnny talks about a man named Jazzo who was arrested for tagging the Great Wall of China. They soon arrive at a dilapidated house and clamber through the bathroom window. With a flashlight, the two explore the creaking house until they find the bedroom where a sleeping man clutches onto the bag they need to procure. Denise grabs a stuffed toy and quickly yanks the bag, replacing it with the toy. The two then make their escape, but on their way, they discover bloody handprints on the walls and on the bathroom's doorknob. Johnny hesitantly opens the door, only to find a pool of blood on the floor and the window boarded up and locked. Upset, Denise blames Johnny for accepting the job while hitting the lock with a flashlight. The frustrated man then goes into the other room and opens the bag, revealing pink crystals inside. As he inspects one, he sees Pack 95 written on the room's baseboard. Curious, he decides to use a crystal. As he huffs it, Denise walks in and berates him for their situation, only for Johnny to disappear. Flabbergasted, she inspects the crystals and pockets one before looking for him. The previously sleeping man has awakened, so Denise sneaks past him until she sees a note from the bottom of a door, asking for her help. Thinking that it's from Johnny, Denise opens the door. Meanwhile, Johnny reappears in the same room he vanished from, but it's no longer in disrepair. He steps into the hallway and finds a woman named Tracy preparing coffee. Johnny sneaks past her and finds a 1995 calendar. Confused, he goes into another room where he discovers a small pack of crystals which he starts to prepare. However, he also sees a police badge in a drawer just as the woman walks in and holds him at gunpoint. The corner Johnny assures her that he wants to leave, but the woman aims the gun at his chin in response. To his surprise, she kisses him and, getting the message, Johnny immediately undresses. Though Tracy insists on keeping the gun aimed at him during their activity, he accepts it. In the old house, Denise sees another her inside the room she opened. The other Denise pulls her inside the nursery and assures her that she'll get them out of this. With that, she orders the confused Denise to keep the doors shut. As she does, Denise mutters to herself how she's always left to clean up after Johnny's messes. Her double defends Johnny, saying he was there when she needed him. She then uses a crystal, grabs the bag, and looks at a card. She tells Denise that she is returning the favor before disappearing and dropping the card. Left alone, the dumbfounded woman discovers that the card is a Valentine's Day card. She then exits the room and sneaks around as the homeowner lumbers around, searching for his bag. Denise slinks into another room and hides behind a stack of books. Given how Johnny and her other self disappeared, she tries using a crystal but finds that her double took her pipe. With no choice, she grinds the crystal, but then sees a message from Johnny on the wall, saying he's trapped in 1995. The woman then uses the powder and opens the Valentine's card, seeing a written note from someone in 2053. She then hears a scream before disappearing. In 1995, Johnny wakes up in bed with Tracy fast asleep. He laments how he's stuck in the past with an undercover cop, but soon gets an idea. He sneaks out and writes a message on the wall, the same one Denise saw, and hides it behind a painting. Soon, Tracy sees him, so he feigns that he was just appreciating art. Gun still in hand, the cop tells him about when she went undercover and got close to a gang who would put women's hands in blenders. She recounts bringing the gang down before they could get to her. She then tells him to grab a blender before joining her in bed. Terrified, Johnny internally begs Denise to rescue him. Elsewhere in time, Denise pops into the house, which is now covered in plastic. An electronic voice chirps that someone will be excited that she's here on Valentine's Day. Denise then inspects a wall plastered with notes and pictures of several women, including her. Appalled, she takes a closer look and grabs the same Valentine's Day card pinned on it. The computer voice confirms that it's 2053 before directing her to a small amount of the time travel crystal. Denise realizes that the rest of it is in the present, so she decides to leave. However, the voice warns that it's dangerous to go outside due to the high solar radiation and riots. Just then, a hooded man with a gas mask steps in. Denise demands to know what he wants and how the crystal works. The computer voice responds instead, explaining that the crystal deconstructs her body and uses her consciousness to quantum tunnel into a time of her choosing before reconstructing herself. With that, the man announces that she is the one he's looking for and commands the computer to release sedating gas. As the gas seeps out, she grapples with a man and manages to inhale the crystal just when the man pulls her legs. She kicks him back, prompting the man to pull his mask off, revealing himself as Kane. Denise bolts just as the crystal triggers, sending her back to the nursery room in the present. However, the present Kane is also there, confronting her with a knife. Amidst this, they can hear another version of Denise in the bathroom at the time they initially tried to make their escape, revealing that they actually went a bit back in the past. Kane reveals that when the time crystals brought her to his home in the future, he knew she was the one he's been looking for. With that, he traveled into the past and made her indebted to him. Denise assumes that he'll kill her, but he reveals that he needs her to stay in this house forever. Confused, she asks what the crystal is, and Kane explains how it was developed by a company his brother worked for in 2050. His brother smuggled the stash and Kane kept it after he got arrested. Still in disbelief, she calls him crazy, so he corners her with a knife. The lights flicker, signaling the time Johnny accidentally went to the past. Kane threatens her friend's life, so Denise begs him to spare Johnny. However, Kane comments that he shouldn't let her past dictate her future. He then leaves the room, prompting Denise to reveal a notebook she stole from him. In the hall, Kane kicks the mysterious man, who's still asleep at this time. He orders him to retrieve the bag before using a crystal to leave. Meanwhile, Denise writes notes in her notebook and slips it under the door for the other self to find. Once past Denise opens the door, she pulls her inside and the same event occurs in the nursery until Denise uses a crystal to go to the past. In 1995, she finally reunites with Johnny, though she's confused at his new, cleaner look. The man defends that he's been living for months with a lunatic undercover cop, while the woman points out that he left her in the nightmare house and she's come to rescue him. Just then, a pregnant Tracy walks in, accusing Denise for trying to steal her worthless man. Denise pauses as she recognizes Tracy as her mother. Horrified at the implications, Johnny spouts that this could have been avoided if Denise went here on the date he wrote, but the woman complained that his message didn't have a precise date in 1995. She then realizes that this is the year when she was born, meaning that Tracy is carrying her infant self and Johnny is her father. Though disgusted, she swallows it down and orders Johnny to leave with her. The pregnant cop yells that he can't just leave her, so Denise commands Johnny to say something, sarcastically calling him Dad. With all of these, Tracy suddenly realizes that everything Johnny has been yammering about the year 2022 is true. Johnny then expresses his disdain that Denise has cop blood in her, and he doesn't want to be associated with anything about the police. Denise snaps back that he's the father who abandoned her, though he defends that he'd been keeping tabs on her at least since they met. Still pissed, Denise decides to reveal that she knows that he was arrested by an undercover cop, and he ratted on Jazzo, the man who tagged the Great Wall. This makes Johnny a traitor. In retaliation, Johnny reveals that he knows she had a kid and hid her pregnancy under baggy jumpers. As the two argue, Tracy manages to take a bag of crystals and uses one. Denise runs for her, but the cop's water breaks just before she disappears. With this, Denise is horrified that if Tracy gives birth at a different time, she'll cease to exist. Suddenly, they hear someone time traveling to them, so they check and find Kane, who's looking for his notebook. Denise tosses it immediately, so the man then demands the bag from Johnny. The aloof man argues that he now has a family to raise, so he'll keep it. The house suddenly rumbles, distracting Kane enough for Johnny to kick him, but the man recovers and beats him down. Denise pushes Kane, but she gets slammed on the window. As she staggers, she sees her name etched on the floor. Kane strangles Johnny, but the man manages to get his knife and stabs him with it. As Kane stumbles back, another Denise with a gun arrives. Surprised, Johnny backs off. The armed Denise orders Johnny to get the crystals from Kane, which he obliges to. The other Denise also tells them to keep 2 for themselves and give the rest to her. Denise asks what's going on, but her other self just orders her to get their mother while Johnny will go in a separate time. With no choice, Denise travels back to the present and finds her mother in labor. She prepares the crystal to bring Tracy back, but the mother refuses to return to her horrible life where she is in constant fear of the gang searching for her. Tracy reasons that even if this timeline is horrible as well, at least she's free. Hearing this, Denise apologizes for the hard time she'll make her go through. However, she argues that if Tracy doesn't return, she'll never have the chance to try and do better. This convinces her mother to return, so Denise prepares the crystal, letting Tracy return to her own time. The man of the house then approaches, allowing Denise to finally see that he's an older version of Kane, who's wounded. Old Kane mentions that Tracy shot him earlier, saying she always overreacts. He confirms that he knew both Tracy and Denise from his past. The woman asks when this time traveling will end, and Old Kane assures her that it will before he locks her inside the room. While he uses a crystal, he mentions that his life would be easier if she didn't exist. Old Kane then goes back in time just before Johnny and Denise are about to steal his bag. He shambles to the bathroom, smearing blood on the wall. Inside the bathroom, he tosses his bag outside and locks the window. In Denise's prison, the woman desperately looks for a time crystal. As she settles down, she notices Kane's notebook beside her and sifts through it. There, she finds drawings of herself along with other writings. As the information dawns on her, she notices that there's a crushed time crystal on the table, so she uses it, grabs Tracy's gun, and disappears. She arrives back in 1995 at the moment Kane gets stabbed. She now stands as the armed Denise who orders her past self to fetch their mother. After her other self disappears, she confronts Kane and asks if he's her son. Basing this on what he wrote about her in his notebook, Kane nods, so Denise asks him to stop chasing Johnny, but the man insists on it. Her friend urges her to just shoot Kane, but Denise defends her son, arguing that it's not his fault that she left him. She recounts when she used to feel good by consuming the nitrogen canisters from Tracy's whipped cream. When her mother found out, Tracy said that her life would be so much easier without her, which were the same words Old Kane said. Denise continues that her mother went to the shop to buy more canisters, but a gang member saw her and ended her life that day. This was why Denise blamed herself for her mother's death. She then concludes that Kane's life would have been easier if she didn't exist. However, Kane accuses her of not even trying to be a better mother, so he tried to lock her in the house to force them into being a family. He rants that he doesn't know how family works since she left him in the church and stayed with Johnny, leaving Kane with nothing. He then demands Denise to shoot Johnny to make things right. At this moment, Tracy arrives upstairs, and the distraction gives Kane the chance to grab the gun. Johnny pushes him off, allowing them to flee into the bathroom. There, Denise prepares the time crystal and tells Johnny to go somewhere where they won't meet, making this their goodbye. He declines, but she argues that he already saved her when he found her, so it's her turn to save him. Hearing this from outside, Kane suddenly apologizes. He explains that he went crazy after looking for her for so long, and Old Kane told him that she left him stranded for 30 years without any time crystal, so he's afraid that she's about to do just that. With this in mind, Kane threatens to shoot Tracy if she doesn't give him a crystal. Desperate to save Johnny and her mother, Denise rants her disdain over her companion, asserting that she doesn't want a snitch like him in her life. This hurts Johnny enough to use the time crystal to leave. However, Kane breaks the door open and shoots him before he disappears. Denise wails in anguish as Kane trains his gun at her, demanding her not to run away. She then uses the time crystal and mutters that she won't before disappearing. Now marooned in this time period, Kane stumbles to Tracy, who's clutching her daughter. She asks him what to name her and he suggests Denise since it sounds annoying. She then asks him to make her coffee, and in exchange, she'll stitch up his wound. Deciding to make this his home, the man agrees. Denise returns to the present, arriving in the bathroom where she finds Old Kane bleeding. She promises not to run anymore and asks where to take him to fix him up. In 2050, Denise helps Old Kane clean up the wall of photos. After that, she hangs around and remembers the part of the floor with her name. She breaks the floorboard and finds a box with a letter from Johnny. Then, he recounted how he traveled far into the past and was lucky that his previous house owner was a veterinarian who mended his gunshot wound. His ability to read and write was an edge that time, so he became an accountant who married the house owner's daughter. To make things right, he prepared a will to make Kane the owner of the house when he comes of age. He then realized that she was right about making things right by separating them, since no matter how much apart they are in time, they'll always be connected.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.